We're cool as cucumbers in a bowl of hot sauce, but since we're hot to trot and slicker than grease, we've got news for your cruise on this all-new episode. And guess what? You'll be sucking like a leech. Hello and welcome to Totally 80s and 90s Recall. This is a podcast where we'll dive into everything the radical decades of the 1980s and 90s through our way, from Mortal Kombat and Reebok pumps to Jolt Cola and Blockbuster Video. If you're new to the show, it's awesome that you've joined us today. And for our returning listeners and subscribers, it's great to have you back. I am one of your hosts, David, joined as always by a man who hated when suckers wrote him checks that would always bounce. It is my good friend, Rob.
I hate it when people write checks that bounce.
That is correct.
Oh, they pay up. Hey, pay me my money. That's what they say.
There you go.
Hey, today's introduction goes out to all of our listeners who are potentially struggling with sensory overload. Today's helpful tips come to us from U2's very own The Edge. He gives us a lot of advice today. It's a long one. Here we go. He says, don't move. Don't talk out of time. Don't think. Don't worry. Everything's just fine. Just fine. Don't grab. Don't clutch. Don't hope for too much. Don't breathe. Don't achieve or grieve without leave. Don't check. Just balance on the fence. Don't answer, don't ask, don't try and make sense, don't whisper, don't talk, don't run if you can walk, don't cheat, compete, don't miss the one beat, don't travel by train, don't eat, don't spill, don't piss in the drain, don't make a will. There's more.
Yeah, take a breath.
Yeah. Don't fill out any forms, don't compensate, don't cower, don't crawl, don't come around late, don't hover at the gate, don't take it on board, don't fall on your sword, just play another chord. If you feel you're getting bored, don't change your brand. Don't listen to the band. Don't gape. Don't ape. I don't know what that means. Don't change your shape. Have another grape. Don't plead. Don't bridle. Don't shackle. Don't grind. Don't curve. Don't swerve. Lie, die, serve. Don't theorize. Realize. Polarize. Chance, dance, dismiss, apologize. These are really good.
Yeah, this is sharp.
This is the short list. Don't spy. Don't lie. Don't try. Imply. Detain. Explain. Start again. Don't triumph. Don't coax. Don't clean. Don't hoax. Don't freak. Peek. Don't leak, don't speak, don't project, don't connect. There's more.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. Protect, don't expect, suggest. Don't struggle, don't jerk. Don't collar, don't work. Don't wish, don't fish. Don't teach, don't reach. Don't borrow, don't break. Don't fence, don't steal. Don't pass, don't press. Don't try, don't feel. Don't feel. Don't touch, don't dive. Don't suffer, don't rhyme. Don't fantasize, don't rise, don't lie. We're done now.
Is that it?
Yeah. Oh. And if you walk away from today's episode hearing nothing, at least hear this. Although you might be feeling a little numb today, just remember that too much is not enough.
I tell you what, that was from Edge, you said?
Yeah.
There's a reason we don't spend a lot of time on U2 around here, because that is a bag of nonsense.
I thought that was
what's going on.
That was good advice.
Did he write? You think he wrote that?
Oh, absolutely, he wrote it.
So that's why Bono wrote all the actual stuff, because if you let Edge go, apparently that's what you get. Because there was a bunch of garbage in the middle of that.
No, it was good.
Sounds like when Kiedis writes for Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yeah. Same kind of skee-ba-da-ba-doo-bob.
That's right.
Nonsense. So,
Stream of consciousness.
Stream of consciousness. Well, we are not by ourselves today, Rob. We have some special guests joining us on today's show. We're joined by two of the hosts of a great nostalgia podcast, not a podcast. There's no B in that word.
It could be a podcast.
Pop Culture Yearbook. Friends of the show, Brad and Giff. Welcome to the show. How are you? Are they there?
Well, great. That was really awesome. I am an unabashed Robster, and he really nailed that one, I thought.
Yeah, that was outstanding.
Yeah, it was something.
Yeah, I don't understand the don't fish. I mean, come on, fishing's great.
Yeah.
And as a big U2 fan, I mean, that was perfect for me on this show tonight. That was great.
So you knew that.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, okay, good.
You are a big U2 fan then.
Oh, yeah. I figured that one out. Pretty easy.
I knew that one right off the bat as well.
I would say I'm a very, I'm a tepid U2 fan. So there's I can only take so much of the U2.
Yeah.
So, but that's okay.
That's all
right. It's all good.
Okay.
That's okay.
So
you're starting off on the right foot.
Rabid.
So, well, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here today. Why don't you real quick give us, I mentioned your podcast, Pop Culture Yearbook. Why don't you give us a quick idea of what that's all about?
All right. Well, yeah, like you said, it's mostly a nostalgia podcast, but we cover, so we basically cover from 1980 on. So we'll get into like next month, we're going to do 2016. So we get into some newer stuff as well. And sometimes those newer ones are kind of exciting to do because you go back and realize that doesn't seem like that long ago, but it really was. And there's a lot of great stuff that came out. But we cover lots of stuff. We cover TV, movies, and music, and who is familiar with us. We're without one of our hosts right now, and it's not a thing where he has anything against you, because when you were on our show, Pete didn't show up that night, and now here we are again, and there's still no Pete. It's like a mythical figure.
Yes.
Yeah,
he's avoiding
like the Sasquatch or the Yeti.
He's avoiding.
Yeah, but we each pick something. We each pick something each month to talk about. Like, for example, what year did we do recently, Gifford? We did at 1990. Well, we did 1990, and I picked Saturday Night Live, and you picked the Wonder Years, and Pete picked Newhart. So we covered a lot of TV that month, but we usually do a lot of movies and music as well. So, and we'd love to do drafts. We draft our favorites of each thing, and we cover a lot of ground that way. Each month kind of focuses on one year. And Gifford was kind of a late arrival to the show, but he's been indispensable.
Yes,
here we are.
Well, right, yeah, I'm always reliable. That's
true.
Really what it comes down to. That's about it. I'm like a old Ford, just working, and that's about it. Not flashy, not a lot of fun.
There you go, Rob.
It is a lot of fun. We always talk about, the thing we love is nostalgia, and of course, because we cover, all the way up to current time, not a lot of nostalgia necessarily, maybe for us in 2016, but there's listeners out there that that was maybe middle school for them, and they remember those formative years. But of course, we certainly love doing a lot of stuff in 80s and 90s. We're the same age as you guys, so we came up the same time, so a lot of the same influences, and those are a lot of fun to go back to. We just happened to cover a bunch of stuff from 1987 and 1989 or in our last month. So those, of course, are right in our wheelhouse, and we love that stuff as well. So we cover quite a bit of ground and have a lot of fun doing it.
So when the podcast started, because you were a late arrival, so I'll go to Brad on this. So what, like, you woke up one morning and you're like, hey, this is what I want to do now. So what was the inspiration?
There's actually a fourth kind of member of our group. So my friend Dave and me, pretty much we've been talking about doing something like this for like 20 years. Like, we were going to write a screenplay, we were going to write a book, we were going to do all these things. Of course, we never did. And it finally came around to that we were going to do this podcast because, we started like most people in the pandemic, but we had plans even before that. And we were looking for a third person to fill it in. And Pete, who's usually on, was the other guy that we thought would really enjoy doing it and have the time to do it and could fit right in. So the three of us started it. And then unfortunately, right when we started, Dave, who kind of originated the whole thing, decided that he was uncomfortable with the whole public aspect. And so he kind of left right away. He's been on, there's a lot of episodes where he's been on, but it became basically me and Pete. And then Gifford was our big fan, and he said he'd love to join. And so he took in, and then we had three again anyway, but
there you go.
It's kind of gone through some iterations in that way. But it's always been the same show, just with 4 different people here and there involved.
That's good. Yeah. We've just had
and to say I came in super late. I mean, I was on, I think, the second episode was published. So
you were
super late.
You were. But we had recorded several before that never saw the light of day. Like, we'd been doing it for like 6 months, and Gifford wasn't part of those. But then he came in as a savior to just save the show there.
Nice.
When we needed him the most.
Wow. No pressure.
No.
Savior.
You are the MVP, Gif.
Yes.
You always come through.
Well, I do have one question. I have a question for Gif. So you have your, I guess I would call it a signature sign-on every week. You guys introduce yourself, and you do this kind of drawn out. You go, Gif, right? So you do the whole thing. So did you pre-plan that? Did that just happen like on your first time on the show? Did they tell you, hey, we need you to do a funny intro, or like it just came out? That's what you felt that day?
So interesting on that. Like, if you listen to our first episodes that I was on, like, I just, I was pretty reserved because, of course, I just assumed that this was going out to 13 million people at a shot. Right. So I was kind of reserved and a little nervous, I mean, now we're up to 14 million an episode, but so it kind of evolved a little bit, and I'll tell you why it evolved. One of our best fans, Johnny Malkren, who does listens to the podcast and then tweets out hashtags that just little snippets that were in the episode. And I just love reading those every week. And he was the one, I was reading one of them, and he said something about loving the show with Brad Pitt. And I thought about it until he wrote that in a tweet. And then I went back and listened. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of a thing that I didn't really notice that I was doing it. So ever since then, it's kind of like, well, I guess I'll throw that in there. At least Johnny was appreciating it, I think. And so, yeah, I just kind of stuck with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of like, so when you guys were on our show, we talked about Rob, and he likes Kirby Puckett.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys know the introduction of Kirby Puckett by the Metrodome announcer back when he played, and it was Kirby Puckett. That's Gifford right there.
Okay.
He took that on.
Sure. Yeah. Please don't compare me and Kirby Puckett's greatness.
No, perfect.
That's a first to be compared to Kirby.
Or the other stuff too.
Well, yeah, we're not going to climb into that.
I just thought it was, it becomes like a signature thing of the show. Like, we famously talk about, we end our show with fancy goodbye, no fancy goodbye. On the very first episode, I had wrote in the script, Rob, make a fancy goodbye. And then when we got to it, he didn't prepare. So he just goes, no fancy goodbye. And then we got a bunch of people going, hey, we like the way you end that, like abruptly. And we're like, so it just stuck after that.
That's outstanding.
So, yeah. So lack of preparation became our catchphrase is really what ended up happening. So,
right. Yeah. Well, you guys don't have paralysis by analysis. So that's good. You're just loosey-goosey.
That's right.
All right. Well, again, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you here today. And Rob, we now have everybody in place.
Yeah.
We've heard about their great podcast. So with that, why don't we tell the listeners what we're going to be covering for this week's episode?
So we are covering the 1990s Billboard alternative hits.
Yes. So what we've done here is we've looked at the alternative airplay charts from 1990 to 1999 for this week back in July. And we looked at the top. There were, at the beginning of the year, there were 30. From 1990 to 94, there were 30 top hits. And then it went to 40 in 95 to 99. So we've split the list up. And between the two of us, we've compiled a list for your show and for our show. And we're going to see what kind of music we've come up with. But I did have a question for you all, since we're talking alternative music. What impact did the shift to alternative music have? Like, we lived in the Pacific Northwest, so we were like right in the middle of it immediately. So we knew all about it. But you being from Minnesota, did that happen right away? Did that take 6 months to a year? Where people were already listening to that kind of music, and then all of a sudden Nirvana and all them started showing up out there?
No, it took no time. We lived in the middle of nowhere. We all grew up on farms and had basically 1-2 radio stations that were pretty much top 40. But our second episode we ever did, the first one with Gifford, was on Nirvana. We did it on Unplugged, but we had actually already done Nevermind on one of our practice episodes that never saw the light of day, because that was just the biggest thing ever for us. And they played it on our radio station, and I bought that CD immediately. And then we found Pearl Jam, and we got into everything. So maybe not some of the smaller bands, like those were more when I got to college. Or I shouldn't say smaller, but like the ones, if it wasn't Nirvana and Pearl Jam, we didn't know about maybe Soundgarden that much until the next one came out. Or we didn't know as much about Alice in Chains right away. But it was huge. And the alternative music, even in high school, was really seeping into our radio station at home, which was great, because I don't know if you picked this totally randomly or what, but this is like my favorite category that you could have possibly picked. So it's perfect timing to have us on. And when I went to college, it was just, everything was off the charts. Like, all we listened to was the 90s alternative from then on. And even Gifford, who's a big country guy, he'll talk, but he was into a lot of it too. So
no, I did pick.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I did pick the topic specifically. I do my research. So listening to past stuff and listening to, and of course, Pete not being here, he was part of that too, because he tends to draw from especially some of the even more alternative type stuff. So, but that's why I picked the topic for us. So, and we love it too. So it matched up real well. So, Sorry to cut you
Yeah,
off
and
there. Go.
for me, like, no, that's okay. It's, you know, you can cut me off. It's your pod, you know, or pop. So for me, like, I was huge into the hair bands. I loved hair bands and all of that. Then I kind of turned back towards country as I came into high school, like in, you know, well, 89, 90, 91. But I remember being in the back seat of my brother's car the first time I heard "Smells Like Teen Spirit" in 90. It was unbelievable. And even a kid who, you know, loved country and, you know, still yearned for like Hysteria, that I knew was a sea change, and it just spoke to me, and I loved it. Now, I will say it wasn't really until I went to college that I kind of just let go mostly of the country and just completely got into more of the alternative rock. So a lot of it for me came in like 94. But because Brad was, you know, such a close friend of mine, he was always kind of our musical beacon, if you will, growing up for our group of friends. He had you know, older brother and sister that were already in college, and their stuff would kind of filter to him, and he would pass it around to the rest of us and say, hey, you got to listen to this. You got to hear this, try this, you know? So we kind of looked to him for where things were going and what was with it and wow at the time. So,
you know what it,
beacon. I love that.
Yeah. You know what it sounds like is without Brad, the rest of you would have had no pop culture knowledge at all, because he had all the music.
Pretty much.
He had a video store so you could watch all the movies. So if it wasn't for him, you guys wouldn't know anything. You'd just be still country folk, I guess, out in whatever part of.
Yeah.
I'll accept that.
Yeah.
I'll accept.
So he's so the whole reason you are all able to exist on your podcast is because of the knowledge he provided you as youngsters. All right. Otherwise he'd be solo at this point. So.
And let's not forget, he was a founding member of the podcast. So with that, we wouldn't have a podcast without Brad starting it.
I also want to throw in that not only did I introduce a lot of that stuff, but Gifford grew up, if you've really listened to the show, he didn't even have NBC until he went to college. He got 2 channels on his farm. So he couldn't watch Seinfeld in high school. He couldn't watch Saturday Night Live in high school, and he only heard about it through the rest of us. It was he lived a very sheltered life.
Rob and I can't relate to that. We grew up in the city, right, Rob?
No. Yeah, and my wife will tell a very similar story because she grew up in a smaller town, and she'll talk. Well, I'll say, well, didn't you watch that growing up? And she'll say, well, no, we didn't have cable until I was in college.
Yeah.
And so she's like, no, we did. We had to rent things, or we had to watch it at a friend's house. But she goes, no, I didn't grow up watching these things.
Yeah, honestly, that made, like, I remember when I joined the Air Force and I go to basic training, I'm talking to other people from all over the United States and grew up like you all, small farm, whatever it was. And then you say things to them and they're like, oh, I've never seen that. I've never heard that. I'm like, how is that even, I grew up in a city. So I'm like, how is that even possible? That it's very accessible at all times. And then you realize it's not accessible to everyone. So I just think it's funny.
That's why I'm going back to, we were really lucky to hear all the good alternative stuff. It made enough of a dent into the mainstream that we got a lot of it. So
so for
happy about that.
Yeah, for Rob and I, we just kind of I don't know, we migrated toward this music right away. We were pretty into hair band stuff, top 40, early 90s R&B, and then we heard this and we kind of obviously, like a lot of people, started drifting that way. But for you guys, I mean, what drew you? You said it wasn't until college gift, but for you, Brad, it was right away. What drew you into this music? Just because it was different than what was on the radio already, or?
I think, well, for me, I think a lot of it was different because so in like 1990, there was kind of the change. So like I had Color Me Bad, I had CNC Music Factory, I love Bobby Brown, I had all that stuff. But that's also right when I was about to discover REM, which you probably know is my favorite band of all time, and then I was always into U2, which, I mean, they were, you know, in excess. They were huge bands, but still they weren't. I don't know. They still felt a little different than some of the others. So I always liked stuff that was different, and I felt like I was one of the first people, like in our town, to listen to Nirvana and to get into that stuff. And a lot of it came from my brother and sister, like Gifford said. They had such great taste in music, and they introduced me to so many things that I felt cool that other people would then go listen to it. And so I just always liked the different stuff. I was always looking for whatever was kind of out of the mainstream. And if you listen to like our show and listen to our drafts, I've started to win a lot more of those on our votes, but I tend to pick things that are more that I love that aren't necessarily the popular choices.
I know.
Whereas Gifford wins a lot of drafts because he
I know you
picks the
guys.
popular
Yeah,
choices.
you guys always give him
Fine.
you give him crap because he's grade grubbing, which is fine. He knows what the people will vote for. So, you're more like Rob.
Well,
I remind Rob all the time. I say, we're trying to play songs.
I find that if you pick things that are in popular culture, then you'll do better.
Of course,
Pop culture, popular culture. These are the more popular things in the culture. So. More people like those things.
Yeah, and that's where Rob and I joke. I go, we're trying to have people listen to this podcast, so we want to play stuff people would remember. And of course, he likes to do maybe like Brad, where it's like, I don't care what people remember. I like this song, and then that's what gets played. So, but I will say, to his credit, and I've told him lots of times, I always get a couple messages every week from someone like, "What are you talking about? That's a great band Rob picked. That was a great song. I love that song." So, there are people out there that have that.
You said you got some feedback for our show about Alternative 93.
Oh, yeah.
And my list was pretty obscure.
Yep.
And then my number one was
Cherub Rock.
And so the feedback we got was that, you went really obscure, and then you picked the most
obvious
song of 93.
Yeah, and right at the end, the person was actually disappointed that Rob went with Cherub Rock at the end because he thought it was too obvious. He said he should have gone with like mayonnaise or something like that. So,
sure.
So,
and I think another thing with like alternative rock at this time for us, being at that age, a lot of this music is about teen angst.
Yeah.
And we were in the middle of that in our lives already. So this is a type of music that really speaks to where we were at that point in our lives. So, I think for the people that were born in 76, or 74 through, 80, I mean, this was a perfect thing to come out at that time.
Well, I'd have a lot of angst too if I was living on a farm with 2 TV channels. So I would.
That's funny.
So were you up working the farm? Were you a farm like worker? I imagine the movie Son-in-Law. Were you out there cutting corn and feeding the hogs and all that stuff?
And I grew up on a dairy farm, so that was twice a day milking the cows, and we had beef and hogs just a few miles north of my grandma's. So yeah, there was real tractors and shovel and the poop and all that real stuff.
Was there ever a chance that you would carry on that profession? Was that ever a want or
good question?
No, not really. My brother is still in the agricultural field, as far as hog production goes for a company. But no, it really wasn't something that I wanted to get away from it, honestly. But as I grew older, you think back to a simpler time of being out on a trailer throwing bales of hay all day in the sun, and it's an honest day, and it's good, honest work. So I do kind of miss a little bit of it. Again, we talk about how much we love nostalgia on our podcast. So I can even get nostalgic about, sweating, throwing bales.
Oh yeah.
Well, and that's the biggest difference between, so Gifford is a true farm boy. Me and Pete both grew up on farms too, but neither one of us hardly ever did a day's work of farming. Like I did a few things here and there, but our farm, when my dad was doing stuff, but like as a family, we weren't anymore. And then we eventually moved to town and we got the video store, which was even better. So his upbringing is way different. And that's probably why he loves the country music so much. Right into his lifestyle.
Yeah. Rob went the other way. We grew up in the city. So he was a city folk. And then once he graduated college, him and his wife moved out to where they live now, and they've got a big piece of land. So now he does do hay. He has cows. He grows. Nice. You're just growing your cows to eat. They're not dairy cows, but so he does farming stuff. Drives on a tractor. He's got all that now. So he went the other way as an older person. So
awesome. You need any help putting up bales ever?
Actually, we just got our field cut, so we're waiting for it to get baled here in the next couple days.
What cutting of the year is this?
For us, it's only our second. We don't have other places are already on their third. we just have pasture grass. So
you know, our folks didn't tune in this week. Tune in to hopefully hear a farming report.
Yes.
So
we're supposed to have a really cold winter.
yeah, whatever.
Okay.
So next thing he's going to tell you about when he goes to
are right now.
I don't.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, this is a whole different pod. We're going to tap into a whole different group of people listening to our podcast.
But before we move on, I was going to say I found some bands from Minnesota that I think we give Minnesota kind of flack for being farmland agricultural, but you got Babes in Toyland.
Okay.
I don't know their work, but you hear a lot about them.
Yeah. I don't.
Soul Asylum, they're a Minnesota band. The Jayhawks, Semisonic.
Oh, the Jayhawks, Semisonic.
See,
Huge
there you
ones
go.
right there.
Morris Day and the Time.
Ah, very good.
Hey,
OBO.
Yeah.
yeah. The Jets.
The Jets. Yeah. Good.
They were from Minnesota. Husker Du.
Yeah. Husker Dome.
Husker Du, Bob Mold.
Husker Du. Yeah. And then this one you probably don't know. I found it. I just like the name. It was a band called Mel Gibson and the Pants.
Oh. Are you on that one,
I
Brad?
don't know that one.
Yeah, they were an underground
No.
hip hop band.
Didn't you miss like the big one? Like, isn't Prince?
Oh yeah, that's a given.
Prince
That's a gimme.
and Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan's a Minnesota guy. I didn't
And
know.
your group.
Yeah, northern Minnesota, the Iron Range.
Oh, I didn't know.
He didn't have Gear Daddies in there, did he?
Oh, we
Gear
did
Daddies
not.
are-
No, they're
No.
pretty. They're pretty small, but they're one of our big ones from high school.
Yeah.
And he didn't mention your guys'.
I'm impressed you had the Jayhawks though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't mention your guys' podcast band. You're sponsored by your guys'
Preacher
band.
Row.
Preacher Row. There you go.
Oh.
That's their band.
That's
So,
right.
But yeah. And isn't the Brand New Heavies? Isn't that Minnesota as well?
They might be. I don't know.
I thought they were on another podcast
I
we
don't
talked
know.
about. So. But yeah, well, I think it's cool that like you said, we're the same age, and being so far apart, us growing up on the West Coast out there, it's interesting that there were some similarities. I just find that interesting because you live in your own little bubble when you're growing up, so you don't realize maybe what everybody else is doing, or is it like this everywhere else. And so it's interesting to hear some of those same like things we thought about and we felt in Minnesota. They did too, and then possibly in other parts of the country.
Well, like you
Very
talked
good.
about the first. You can remember where you were when you heard "Nevermind." I can remember first time hearing
Yep.
10 by Pearl Jam. So same thing with Nirvana. I remember being out in front of Dave's house when he showed me the cassette, and that was the most craziest thing I've ever heard. So, anyway.
So, all right. Well, speaking of bands, from Concrete Blonde and Nirvana, has been mentioned many times at the beginning of the decade, to Luscious Jackson and Cake towards the end, we're taking a look at some great alternative music from the 1990s. I always think it's a perfect segue when we go into alternative music. We have a nice 90s hip hop jam to bridge us right into it. So,
Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
all right. Well, for fans of the show, typically Rob and I come up with competing lists of songs that we discuss and sometimes agree on. But with our guests from PCY, I made it PCY for you guys today. So PCY here today. We've altered the format just a little bit. All the song choices today, as we mentioned earlier, from the Billboard Alternative Airplay charts from the 90s. The altered format is that Rob and I have collaborated to compile a list of songs, and then your team from Pop Culture Yearbook has done the same. We've each selected one song from each year in the 90s for this week in July, giving each team a top 10 list. The Billboard Alternative Airplay list, as we said earlier, only had 30 at the beginning of the 90s, and it had 40 songs after that. So we made it real easy on you two today. You got to draft from the top half of the songs. So you got the most popular songs, and Rob and I took on the challenge of digging out a song from the bottom half of each list so that we could give you a good chance to come up with the better list. We'll see if that happens, but we're
Very kind of you.
We're pretty good. Yeah, we like to be nice. So with you two, when you were doing your dive into the list, because I sent you the list for each year, how easy or hard was it for the two of you to agree on a song for every year of the 90s?
It was pretty easy. We did it with Pete when the three of us did it together. There was a couple years where there's like 10 or 15 songs that we loved, and so we could have picked so many of them. But we kind of played a few here and there, and there'd be like we'd hear the beginning of a song and be like, "Holy crap!" That just took us back right away, and we knew that was the one. So I don't know. We didn't really fight much about it, did we, Gifford?
No, I was honestly surprised how quickly we came together on some of these. I thought, though, when we got to like maybe year 96 through 99, it might have been the end of our podcast, because I thought we would fight so hard for our song that we wanted that we would just say, okay, screw it, we're done. I'm done with you guys. But it came together. I was really surprised at how well we were able to pick amongst some lists that were, I mean, like Brad said, there were bangers up and down these lists. So it was fun to put the list together, though.
But I think that's a testament to how. So we've been on the show for almost 4 years now, and I think that shows how we get along and we get through stuff. So we got through this one okay, and you didn't break us up, and so we're going to keep going.
The intent wasn't to break up. I just thought if someone stood on the table and was like, "No, this is the best song of '93," all right, that's just what's going to happen.
Nope.
So, Rob and I were pretty much on the same page. We looked down, but I will say we noticed, and you may have more knowledge than we did, but I thought 90 through 92 was a little more difficult than the back end of the 90s, because some of that stuff I just didn't know. I listened to everything on there, and I just didn't know some of it.
Yeah, you'll hear that with our very first year that we had to pick from. It was easy. It was the easiest one to pick of all, and I'll tell you in 90 minutes. So.
Yeah, there was one year where we just kind of went back. I don't know any of them. And then the final one we picked, I kind of remember hearing it, but I don't remember it. And Dave was like, "You don't remember this one?"
I remembered it more than
I was like,
he did,
"No,
but,
I don't. So. I kind of do, but I don't know.
I didn't look at these lists, but I'm really curious, like what you guys had to choose from.
Okay,
this bottom half.
Well, after
we didn't do any looking ahead.
Oh, that's good. After we record today, I can share what we didn't pick with you, so you can compare and contrast at that point. So, and then you'll know. How'd you guys forget about that? We will say asterisk for us. On our list, we tried to avoid any songs we may have played on previous episodes, so that also shrunk down a little more of what we had to choose from. So we tried to branch out a little bit. So
we did the same on one of the picks. I'll talk about that as well.
So, all right. Well, I think we're ready to dive in. Everybody's probably heard enough. They want to hear some music. So we're going to start, like I said, in 1990, and we're going to have you all go first. And so your first song, and I'm going to play it right now. Really good song.
Yeah.
Dave has a new appreciation for this band.
Yeah, it's like my new favorite.
Well, I was just going to say, I heard you talking about them like last week or 2 weeks ago. It was.
Yeah. So I did know know this song. So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce your song from 1990?
All right, so we each picked 5 to do. So I got the first one here. This was the easiest choice of the whole thing because this was literally the only song we recognized on the list when we looked at it. So, but it's a great song, and like it was played on our radio station, and I loved it so much. So there was a nostalgia factor with this right away when I listened to it. It takes you back to that time. This is a song. It's been 4 weeks at number 1 on the modern rock list, and it was a pop hit too, number 19. That's probably why we heard it. Mm-hmm. Given our one basic radio station, that's why we heard this song, because it crossed over. But it's this emotional song about being in love with an alcoholic, and it creates that feeling so well. So it's Concrete Blonde Joey. I don't think we said that yet, just in case somebody doesn't know.
Yeah.
But this singer, you talked about her last week. The low and breathy verses to the full of emotion choruses just really bring home the emotion of this song. I read a comment about it on the video on YouTube. Somebody said it's the kind of voice that you not only hear, but you feel. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
Well said.
Explanation. So it was instantly recognizable. I had heard of Concrete Blonde. They were on the Pump Up the Volume soundtrack, but I really don't know much else by them. I just really, really love this song.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why we picked it.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been listening to a little more Concrete Blonde lately. I didn't catch them in the 90s. I did remember this song, and then I've listened to some other ones. So, yeah, but her voice, I think, is pretty amazing. So I've been going back and listening to some more. So.
I will say...
Go ahead.
after. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Rob.
Oh no, I was just gonna say
I was just gonna say that the second song.
No, you're good. You
It's
go.
that leg. It's that leg, right?
Don't worry about him.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You go, Rob.
we'll fix this in post.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's fine.
No, so the song was written in a cab on the way to the to a photo studio in Philadelphia when she
Nice.
wrote this, and that's a common theme that we find is that some of the best songs we found on here are they were written on the last minute, or they're written on a train, or they're written in a somebody's apartment. I sometimes get frustrated with the people that can be so creative and on the fly.
Oh yeah,
So,
just for no reason.
Yeah.
So, all right.
What I was going to say is, I don't know if you guys recognize. So the second song in this list was "Jealous" by Gene Loves Jezebel, and I kept looking at that title and thinking maybe I know that one. And then we listened to it together, and we were like, really, like this is a cool song. And
Yeah.
if you watch the video, that song is like a transition between hair metal and alternative. It looks like one of the worst hair metal videos you could imagine, but it's this alternative. It's a kick-ass song. So I liked it a lot, but Joey was definitely the pick.
yeah,
easily, so.
absolutely.
That's good. So, well, for us, much like you, 1990, we only had one song we even knew on the chart. We listened to everything else, and this was the only one that we knew.
It's too late to change events. It's time to face the consequence. The delivering the proof in the policy of truth.
Yeah, so this is the only song
Yep.
of our 15 we can even identify.
Like you said,
That's
one
a
of
good one.
the
That
easiest
is a good one.
easiest pick.
Oh yeah.
What you swore the time before.
We didn't even really discuss another song where like both of us were like, that's the only one. I didn't even recognize band names for some of them, so I was I was a little off in the woods on that. So but this is, you two probably know, but this is Policy of Truth by Depeche Mode. I always say about Depeche Mode, when I was younger, I felt like they were like what cool college kids will listen to, because I was like, when they first came out in the late 80s, I was still younger, so I was like, oh, that's a cool band, I assume. So this was a top 15 hit on the Billboard Hot 100, number one on the alternative airplay chart. Only single for Depeche Mode that charted higher on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 than on the UK singles chart. It was also the band's second number one song after Enjoy the Silence, also a very good song. Song is about a partner cheating and saying that it will never happen again. Martin Gore, the band's main songwriter and keyboardist and guitarist, said this was his favorite song and that the band ever recorded. And Depeche Mode, just for Gee Whiz, was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2020.
That's a good segue, because I'm not really into Depeche Mode,
No.
but here are their stats. 15 studio albums, 10 compilation albums, 6 live albums, 8 box sets, 13 video albums, 71 music videos, 54 singles. They've sold over 100 million records. They've played live to more than 35 million fans. They had 50 songs on the UK singles chart, 1 number 1 in the US, 1 number 1 in the UK. All of their studio albums have reached the UK top 10. Their albums have spent over 210 weeks on the UK chart, and along with the Red Hot Chili Peppers and U2, funny that we talked about them, Depeche Mode are one of the 3 acts that have charted at least once on the Billboard Alternative Airplay chart, and every decade since its debut in 1988.
My goodness.
Like, they've done a lot. They're
Yes.
a huge band.
Yeah.
Huge band.
Wow.
Apparently Rob thought they were a garage band or something.
I was like, yeah. I mean, I thought they were kind of just like an 80s band, but no, they're huge. People love them.
People love them. So,
Yeah, I knew they were a good band, but not that big.
Oh, yeah.
73 music videos.
My goodness.
Yeah, they're kind of like my own personal G.
Oh,
There you go.
well done.
We don't have one of those.
Well done.
But that was good. Very
Yeah.
good segue. We'll just use that, and we'll take us to 1991. Yeah. We'll take it to 1991 and your song choice for that year.
For the heartache and the pain
Really good song.
that I caused throughout my years.
Yeah.
How I learned to be a man through the
This is definitely like a 120 minutes. This didn't play on our normal radio stations.
Yeah, we heard this one too.
I want to say that the first time I heard this song,
Yeah.
I think it was like in a movie or something. Was there a movie that played on or something?
I
I'm not
want to
sure.
say it was on
Well,
So I Married an
Well,
Axe Murder.
and that
Possibly, yeah.
this was in yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's how I always think about this
Yep.
movie.
No,
Is
yeah.
it-
And I
is-
think it
or
was
the
in
song.
Disturbing Behavior or something too.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
So this is Rush, released in June of '91 by Big Audio Dynamite 2 off of The Globe album. This iteration of the band was formed in '91 by the only remaining member of Big Audio Dynamite, Mick Jones.
Mm.
The song spent 4 weeks at number 1 on the alternative airplay chart, making it the band's biggest commercial success. The single was also released in the UK as side AA, along with the re-release of the Clash's Should I Stay or Should I Go as side A.
Really good.
Jones was the founding member and lead guitarist of the Clash until he was fired in 1983. The song features samples from 6 different recordings from The Who, Deep Purple, Tommy Rowe, Pig Meat Markham, Sugar Hill Gang, and Peter Sellers. With these samples components sprinkled throughout the song,
Oh.
Ditty of '91.
It's awesome. I think we.
There we go.
So yeah, I mean, I think it was just absolutely just so much fun, and like I say, those familiar bits coming in, I think, help make it instantly recognizable to a lot of people. Maybe they didn't exactly know why, but because of that, I think it caught on pretty well.
Yeah.
Finished the year at number 2 on the alternative airplay.
Number 2.
I think it's really good. It's classic. It sounds like 1991. So.
Yeah. So and it's like I said.
And it
so
sounds like the Clash too.
It does
Oh,
sound
yeah.
like the Clash. Absolutely.
Very much. So you guys are 2 for 2. Those
For a
were
good reason.
Those weren't either of my 2 that I was like, oh, that's
All right.
that choice. Those were both when I looked at your list. I was like, oh, those I would have chose the same 2. So those were really good. So that takes us to our 1991. This is the one where Rob and I we decided on this song because I'd heard it. He kind of heard it, but didn't hear it a lot. So here it is.
Let's see if you guys.
See if you guys know it.
Oh yeah, Jesus
See?
Jones, real,
They know.
real, real.
See? Rob, you're in the woods on that one.
I was.
The follow-up to Right Here, Right Now.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually interesting that you say that because it's not the follow-up. It actually they
Or
released
was it not the follow-up?
Yeah, they
Was it-
released this single first, and then Right Here, Right Now came out after this single. So, but like you said, this is Real, Real, Real by Jesus Jones. Hit number 4 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100, actually. So it did really well over there. And a top 5 on dance club charts in several countries and in the U.S. So a big dance song. Only peaked at 26 on the alternative chart, which is where we found it. It never got any higher than that. So it actually did better on the Billboard Hot 100 than it did on this. You said their bigger hit. Obviously, we all know their bigger hit was Right Here, Right Now. That hit number 2. But this charted higher in the UK than Right Here, Right Now did. So apparently they thought in the UK that this is a better song than the one that actually made him more famous here in the United States. So, but yeah, Real, Real, Real.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know much about it.
That's
so.
a great choice you found there.
yeah, Rob's not a
Love that
big Rob. As we were going through this, he wasn't a big Jesus Jones guy. So so I had this album. So
I did not.
no, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
All right,
Yeah.
that's okay. So this wasn't one of those ones for him. So I tried to introduce it to him, and he just wouldn't budge. So he was busy with Bryan Adams. That was his problem. So
Oh yeah, you guys love Bryan Adams.
yeah, he was
91. That's big Bryan Adams.
91's peak.
that's
Robin
where he
Hood.
went down.
Robin Hood soundtrack just every day.
Yes.
We just watched
King of
Robin Hood
Thieves.
again for the first time.
Ugh.
We exposed it to our children.
Yes. Did they
Yeah.
enjoy it?
No.
No. What?
No.
That's
No.
great.
No.
Talk-
I think we ended up. My wife fell asleep and we turned it off.
Oh.
And, yeah.
I will say, not everything's great in that movie, but Alan Rickman is hitting a home run.
He's the
in that
only
movie.
good
He's
part of
doing
that
good.
movie.
So yeah, but
I'm all in on 80s Bryan Adams, but 90s Bryan Adams can just go
See?
to hell. I
Hey,
can't stand that guy.
that's why we have him on here, so
back.
someone can finally back up that I'm okay with Bryan Adams in the 80s, but 90s, almost
He's
detestable.
Taking
Like,
tickets at the 80s Mount Rushmore.
yeah, no.
There was
all
a
right.
Three Musketeers song too.
Oh,
yeah.
Ugh.
Right.
It's a hideous song.
Sting.
All right, let's not get involved with that.
sorry, okay.
All right, so that's going to take us to 1992, and this is your guys' next pick. This is this is the song you chose?
That's what I was gonna guess.
Yeah, me too.
I don't even have any notes for this one because I don't know it.
Well, and
Oh man, it's so awesome.
what's great about music is everyone can have what they love. Because I'm just going to be on record that I'm not a Delamitri guy.
So we can have it because you're not going to take it. Is basically what you're saying.
yeah.
You
can
are
have our
free.
This is a safe pick.
You are free to run around with Delamitri as often as you'd like. But I will let you go ahead and introduce it and defend your choice.
Sure. Always the Last to Know was the first single off Delamitri's third album, Change Everything. The album became the band's biggest success, charting at number 2 in the UK. The song was released in April and broke into the top 40 on the US Hot 100. It's a love song. I love the guitar and the piano. Through the song, you listen to the lyrics. He's the last to know. And the bomb at the end that, what does he say? Or if he cheated on you, like I cheated on you, like you were the last to know. It's like, well, then you're just a douchebag. So, at the end of it, you're like, you got kind of what you deserved. And obviously you cheated on, this great girl. And that's why she's no longer with you. But this was ended at number 12 for the year. So it's further down the list. And yeah, I mean, I heard the opening riff for it. It's fun. I like the guitar. I like the piano in the beginning. Singable lyrics. So that's our pick. I will say as you start your attack on this song,
I'm not gonna attack.
it did not have anything. Like, I do my research. I'm going to let everybody know on Wikipedia. There is no Wikipedia page dedicated to this fine ditty.
No.
So there is nothing really more to find on it.
And I'm going to say that this is one where it was more of the team effort. So this is where the nostalgia really came in. We had at least 5 or 6 other songs in this list we all liked. Like, I mean, we almost picked A Shame About Ray by the Lemonheads. That would have been my first choice. Hunger Strike is great. Pretend We're Dead is great. There's so many good. In Excess, Heaven Sent, we'd listen to. But when we listen to the beginning of the song, all 3 of us are like transported back, and we're like, let's go with that one instead. And it was just kind of a, the seat of your pants type thing.
Yeah. Yep. So see, I can't attack based on that right there. That's
good reason.
That excuse for picking it is so good. I can't mess with it. So the reason I said, oh, you chose that song is because of what you said. Looking at the list, I was like, okay. Like, but when there's personal ties to it, that can make sense. My
Pleasure by the Soup Dragons is another one we loved on there. There were so many good ones on this year.
I would say my hate for Delamitri doesn't stem really from this song. It's the Roll to Me song. I think that's one of the most detestable songs of the 90s. The video's horrendous. It's really bad. So maybe I'm letting that bleed over into the rest of everything they do. But I will say
that one was overplayed.
Oh yeah, that was a tough one. So. But good choice. I do like the personal nostalgia connection to it. That's real good. So that's going to take us to our choice in 1992. Again, we had slim pickings on this, so this is kind of what we came up with.
See, they're stumped too.
Oh. You don't got this one?
Nothing.
Oh, wow.
Sounds kind of like Depeche Mode again.
Well,
And again, to be
fade
fair,
out.
you guys are picking from the bottom of the list.
We are.
as well.
But I will say, from the bottom, I knew this song. I like this song, but I'm going to let Rob introduce it.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Rob.
So this is a song called Disappointed by a band called Electronic. And they were an alternative dance group. What I found is that it's a band that features a bunch of
It's a super group.
It's an 80s supergroup. Yeah. So it's got Neil Tennant from the Pet Shop Boys. It's got Johnny Marr from the
that's what it is.
Yeah. It's
Pet
got
Shop Boys.
Yep. And it's got Johnny Marr from the Smiths.
Yep.
Bernard Sumner, who was, in addition to this band, he was the founding member of Joy Division, New Order, and a band called Bad Lieutenant that I did not know. And this was released in '92. It reached the top 20 in Germany, Greece, Ireland, Portugal, Sweden, and the UK. In the US, it peaked at number 10, the top 10 on 3 Billboard charts. And it was featured in the soundtrack of the live-action animation hybrid mystery movie Cool World.
Cool World. Did you get that one at your video store?
Brad Pitt.
Yeah, Brad Pitt,
Yeah.
animated, live action animated.
Anyway, so you two had not heard that song before.
No, I don't know that.
Nice, yeah.
I never heard of the band either. So.
Yeah. To be fair, I hadn't heard of the band either. I always assumed it was a Pet Shop Boys song because I know the voice of the lead singer. But then when we did the research, it's a super group that they put together. But I just think it was a fun song. I remember it. I remember hearing it when it came out, but apparently I'm the only one. So I got one. That's a good one for me. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
It's not often I hear something Rob hasn't heard. So. And to hear something Brad hasn't heard too. Now I'm 2 for 2. That's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got me.
Yep. So, all right. Well, moving along, we move into 1993, and obviously, I had no questions about this choice.
This is my favorite, one of my favorite picks on this whole list.
It is, obviously, it's amazing.
Yeah, and this was a tough one because there was a lot of good ones.
Yeah, there was a lot. I saw your list. You had a lot to choose from.
So good. I don't belong
We had
here.
to pick this over
I don't belong here.
Cherub Rock as well.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
glad we
See?
didn't pick that now since they just talked about it last week.
Exactly.
But No Rain by Blind Melon was on this list. That was just the biggest song.
Yep.
And then the Tears for Fears song too.
Break
was
it down.
Kind of took you back. That one to me seems more pop though than alternative. So I was kind of surprised. I don't know to see it on here.
Yeah.
Well, you can go ahead and introduce this song and tell us why.
All right. So this is Creep by Radiohead, of course.
Radiohead.
This is such a unique song. As a 17-year-old when this came out, I mean, if you didn't get wrapped up in the lyrics and the emotion of this, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Everybody feels that way. Everybody feels like that about not fitting in, not belonging, just feeling weird. That I made sure you picked the part of the song there where you hear the metallic crunch of the guitar, which is just the iconic part of the song. When I first heard the real version of the song, I don't know if you guys want me to swear or not, but with the real words, I was blown away because on the radio, it's just used.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't use the F word.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but then I loved it even more after hearing that. I'm like, oh, this is great.
Always.
It is a crossover hit, number 34. So this was played a lot on our radio station. And to this day, the thing is, this is like the only song by Radiohead that I really like. And it seems like a band I would have loved, but they're not. I never got into them. This song's made lots of lists of the best songs of the 90s, the best debut songs of all time. And it's funny because like they turned their back on it and rarely played it anymore.
Yep. They hate
And
it.
it's the one that everybody loves. And it's like, come on, guys.
So it's interesting you say that because I watched just this week, I was watching a YouTube thing. I was just messing around YouTube and I saw a Radiohead interview. They were talking about this song. And it's funny because when they recorded Creep, the lead guitarist, that most iconic crunchy guitar, he was doing that to annoy the producers so they didn't have to record the song. And then they said, no, do it again. And he was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
But he was literally doing it because he was hoping they'd tell him to stop. So he said he was trying to be too loud. He had his guitar out of tune and he turned his amp up too high so that they would say, hey, knock that off. Let's do something else. Because he didn't like the song at all, even when they were recording it. So, but
Wow.
is what it is.
Well, they're crazy.
Yeah, I know. Rob and I talk about that all the time. I'm like, oh, we hate our most famous song that made us famous. Oh, okay. Just be quiet.
yeah.
Right.
I'm sure they cast the residual checks with no problem. So,
Yeah.
but,
Yep.
but,
preposterous statement time. Like I'm with Brad. Like to me, Radiohead is one of the best one-hit wonders ever.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because this is their song for me. Like I'm not a Radiohead guy.
you'll get a lot of pushback on that being a one-hit wonder because
I know I will.
there are dedicated Radiohead fans, like legions of them. So yeah, I've tried all of them.
Yeah.
I tried OK Computer. I've tried all the other albums, and I'm just like, I don't I don't get it. I guess I don't know.
I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah, Rob's on board.
Yeah.
He's a radio-headed header. I don't know. We don't have a word.
He
for
did
it
have
yet.
one. I don't know if it was they had was it Kid A? I don't know. There was one that it really was just bleeps and bloops.
Yeah,
and
he only
it-
used a computer, no
yeah,
instruments.
I couldn't. I was like, I don't know. I couldn't get into it.
All right. Well, your 93
But
song.
they can always fall back on that sitcom Bjork and York.
There you go, Bjork and York. Yep,
Yes.
the new buddy show.
Yes.
We're still working on the script for that. So
Well, you talked about this song being what you said if it got into the emotions.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this next song,
oh yes, it's all emotion.
it's all about the emotions.
the fact that we
can't
have
wait.
the fact that we have to follow Creep with this
Yes.
now makes this
Yeah.
look less exciting. I'm
Yeah.
going to promise you. When we picked this, we didn't know what you had, so following it, you got us on that one.
This song always reminds me of Pete. I just remember listening to this at his house growing up, and of course the two guys are blonde guys. They kind of look like Pete and his brother. So I just always thought the Pretenders,
Oh, yeah.
might have been
That's funny.
the Petersons.
That's funny.
So this is I'm going to be parentheticals 500 miles by the Proclaimers. Probably one of the most recognizable songs of the 90s for any of us that grew up there. This is one of those 90s songs that I think literally everyone knows. They either like it or they hate it. I'm sure there's people on both sides, but it's very memorable. I feel like it's a song that is more made fun of than appreciated, but I think it's catchy and fun. I like catchy, fun pop songs, and this found its way into the alternative chart. So people give it a lot of crap. It was on the Benny and June soundtrack. That's what kind of made it famous. It actually came out in 1988.
It was
I believe.
88?
Yeah, it was released in 88, didn't do anything. And then Benny and June put it on their soundtrack in 93, and then it skyrocketed up the charts. So they can thank Johnny Depp for that. Let's see. Number one, though, in Australia, New Zealand, and Iceland, which I'm sure Bjork loved. You mentioned Bjork and York. And so I'm sure Bjork was happy that the Icelandics were good for the Proclaimers.
Yes.
So
I had in my notes, it says this has become a live staple at the Proclaimers concerts. So they're smart. They know this is what people want when they come to see it. And Craig Reed, one of the brothers,
Radiohead.
right? Yeah, they're twin brothers. He has said that the band's earning from this song is 5 times more than the rest of all of their other songs combined.
You can just live off this the rest of their life. So that's it.
Yeah.
So they know when they go to these concerts, they're like, let's
Well, and it's funny.
let's give them what they want.
You brought up how you love or hate the song, and I've always hated it, but I've grown to like it actually. And when you play it, it's fun. But me and Gifford love the show How I Met Your Mother, and we did an episode on that one. But I was just watching an episode the other day, and Marshall and Ted are on a road trip, and the only song that he could play in his cassette player was this song. And they would like it, and then they would hate it, and then Marshall would say, "It'll come back around." And after like 2 minutes, then they would love it again.
That's
It's
funny.
a classic. It's the perfect explanation of that song.
Yeah, I would.
Can I ask what number?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say what number on the list was this, because Creep was all the way down at number 15
It was
for 1993. So bottom of our list, oddly enough. So where were the Proclaimers at on your half of the
I
list?
think Rob's got
yeah.
the list. It was towards the middle. This is another one I think did better on the Billboard Hot 100 than it did on the alternative. I was actually surprised it slid over to the alternative. There were better songs in 93 but we just did a 93 alternative like 2 weeks ago, and multiples of the songs we featured on that show were on this list. So that kind of directed us towards this song. It's memorable. So
Oh, that's funny.
reason.
What'd you say? Creep was 15?
Yeah, he said
Yeah, this was 17.
17.
So
there
it's
you
just
go.
a few
Right there.
slots below.
Just right behind it. So it's creeping up on Radiohead is what
Oh, wow.
I can do it too. Like GIF doesn't have GIF doesn't have a patent on that. All right. So
Nope.
So, all right. Well, this takes us to 1994, and this is my favorite song of your list that you made this week. So I'm pretty excited for this one.
You gotta keep them separated.
That's such a great beginning.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the best openings to a song, of any song.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you say it's one of your favorites that we picked here. Well, it was
Yes.
the number one song
It was
for the year on this playlist. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Well,
guys
and
you made it real
To
difficult.
show how good it is. Like this is now we're getting to the point where I recognize basically every song on the list here. And
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so many good ones. But yet we still went with this one because it's just awesome.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So
Different.
Yes.
who's up on this one?
So this is of course Come Out and Play, Keep Them Separated by The Offspring. So again, like Brad said, there are so many awesome songs on this list that to pick one seems unfair. But for me personally, I entered college this fall and was inundated with non-country music at
That's good.
parties in the dorms and on this television channel called MTV. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that at
Oh
all.
my goodness.
But I was introduced quite heavily then. The Offspring was one of the many bands I was introduced to. This was the first single released off the band's third album, Smash, and their second single that they ever released. It's rightly referred to as their breakthrough hit, as it reached number 10 on the mainstream rock charts. Again, like you guys said, the quick drums, the bell beat at the beginning before that overwhelming guitar hits you. The song is all about the guitar and the vocals. Unfortunately, the lyrics from 30 years ago about school and gang violence ring as true today as they did back then.
Yeah.
Yep.
In my notes, I had that the record owner, Robbie Fields, submitted a written claim alleging that the 2-bar guitar phrase repeated throughout the song, so that that was copied from a song called Bloodstains by a band called Agent Orange. And I didn't write down whether or not they ended up getting sued for it or having to pay out. But what I thought was interesting is the guitarist, they didn't? Oh, good. The guitarist, Frank Agnew, said, of another band, said, I don't see how you can call that plagiarism. All it is an Arabic scale. It just reeks to me as if people are after a piece of the pie. If the Offspring did a guitar solo that was reminiscent of one of my guitar solos, I'd be honored, not antagonized. I think it's pretty petty. And I think that's true. Like, if somebody's going to copy your work, let's like celebrate that.
Well, some of them want to get paid for it.
Yeah.
Well, and the guy who made the big stink wasn't even the guy who wrote the music. It was more of like a representative, maybe a lawyer. So the guy who wrote it was kind of like, yeah, no, not really. Yeah. But the guy representing him felt like, okay, well, maybe we can get a little something. And I think what they wanted was a penny for every song that was sold. So it would have been like 60 grand or something like that. So it wasn't huge. They ended up never actually bringing a suit. So there was never anything to pay out. One other thing I had on this, Jason Blackball McLean is the You Gotta Keep Them Separated guy that's credited on this song.
Yeah, I think they were in the studio recording and they brought him over and he just did that part of the song. So
interesting.
Yeah, I heard that on another podcast. I heard that explanation. So, but no, that's a great song. 94 in general, great year for alternative music. You could argue it's probably maybe the best. So this time, unlike with the Proclaimers, we can back up your song with something equally as great from 94.
I wore this one out in the fall of my freshman year in college.
Rob loves this album.
Oh, this is
the album.
This is a great album.
I'm gonna let you introduce this one.
Oh, okay. So this is "Selling the Drama" by the band Live. It's the first single from Live's 1994 album "Throwing Copper," which was huge. It reached number 1 on the U.S. Billboard Modern Rock Tracks. They would eventually have 3 singles reach the top of this chart. It reached number 43 on the Billboard Hot 100. It achieved its highest peak in the Netherlands, where it peaked at number 15 on both the Dutch Top 40 and the single Top 100 chart. So the Dutch loved Live.
The Dutch.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. The video is
What's up?
Germans.
that's right. The video is notable for one of the last appearances of Ed's long hair, which he shaved off around this time that the I Alone video came out, and then he had that
Yeah.
Oh,
bald with the ponytail.
that was my favorite song right there. I could not get enough of that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I love that album too. I played that a lot. I played Smash more, The Offspring. I was really into that album, but Live was right back. It's 94 is tough because I got Dookie I'm listening to 100 times a day. I'm listening to Ill Communication all the time. There was a lot. 94 is kind of ridiculous.
Weezer's on there.
94 is just kind of ridiculous in general if you really start to look at it a little bit. So
Yeah, no, Throwing Copper's amazing.
So yeah, that takes us to 1995. We're halfway home.
95.
95, big year. This will be my second favorite song on your guys' list this week.
Ooh.
Another really good one.
Yeah, this might be. Yeah, this is really, really good.
It is.
This is.
It is.
So
It's
good.
amazing. It builds so much. I love
Yeah.
songs like this.
The build is what I think this has. That's
what made it famous.
Yeah.
Because if they don't build it like
and
they do,
this
and
song-
just sing it straight.
This song took me down a heck of a rabbit hole too. We'll get into that.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be the same rabbit hole that I went to, and I'm scarred.
Hey,
I'm
first of
scarred
all,
for it.
No, you two don't get to spend 30 minutes in a rabbit hole with a filter. All right, that's not how this is going to go today.
Yeah, this is a rabbit hole
Pick
that
one carrot to talk
it
about.
has.
That's
It has a disclaimer like you don't. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, go
I'll let
ahead.
them-
Whoever's got the rabbit holes first, go ahead and
Yep.
start it.
That will be me. So this is number 19 for the year. Hey man, nice shot from Filter. So again, so much to choose from here. We had talked about covering other songs on your podcast. So that kind of gave us a few outs here. So PCY has wonderful episodes covering the Foo Fighters, U2, Green Day, and Weezer. I just touched on an Offspring song in 94, so we're going to give another band their due. Hey Man, Nice Shot was the first single from Filter's debut album, Short Bus. It was released in April and reached number 10 on the alternative airplay and number 19 on the mainstream rock charts. Its verses feature a sweet bass riff, background guitar, backfeed, and muted vocals. These are slow burns just leading you into the chorus that just rock your face off. Written by the band's lead singer, Richard Patrick, in 91. It's about the 1987 public suicide for R. Bud Dwyer, the state treasurer of Pennsylvania, following his conviction for bribery and racketeering. It is not about Cobain's suicide in 94, as many believe.
So what you don't want to do
No.
is
Yes.
what you don't want to do is Google
Yeah.
the video of Mr. Dwyer's
Oh, okay.
suicide.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
It's not good.
'Cause
Yeah,
it's
I
out
heard
there.
mention- Yeah.
Oh, it was
It's
on
not
public television. It was
Yeah.
a live event, and it not good.
Yeah.
I'm scarred for it. So
You know, I'm noticing, Brad, that you made Gift do all the research. Is this?
No, this is just the luck of the draw here. Actually, one of these a couple of these repeats. That's why we're not going back and
I
forth
gotcha,
because we
yeah.
had to rearrange.
That makes
So-
sense. Yeah.
it was also featured in the Cable Guy famous basketball scene.
Oh yeah, really good
Yeah.
when he dunks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was that whole basketball scene. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we just watched that the other night. My son loved it. Connor loved it. Thought it was great. So.
Yeah.
But
All right.
So yeah, I just want to make sure Brad was still there because it feels like Giff was doing all the heavy lifting over here. So
I got the next one.
I was going to say, Brad's got I only got one left. Brad's going to finish this off.
You give-
I've only got one
yeah,
left.
you give these nice long synopsis, and then Brad goes, "It's good."
That's good.
No, he said it rocks your face off,
Yeah,
and that's
rocks-
all he had to
Yeah, I
say
like
for
that.
me.
Yeah, it rocks your
It
face
does
off.
though. The way that it
Yeah.
just sits there and builds and
And just
builds.
the
and
screaming
builds and then
vocals at the
bam.
end.
Yeah,
Just,
so
I
good.
cannot. You
Yeah.
can't. It's a song when you start listening to it, you can't stop. You
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
go all the way.
It's so good.
Mhm.
So that takes us to ours in '95. I think
Uh-huh.
a great song that I think is underrated on the album it comes from. It gets overlooked by a lot, but I'll say it's one of the best. I think it's one of the best songs on the album.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when you go to Dookie, a lot of people don't pick this song as like, oh, I like that song a lot. It's all the big ones. But
Yep.
I really think that's underrated as far as that album goes.
That
so.
may be my
That's not
favorite song on the whole album.
Oh wow,
Now that
nice.
you-
That's funny.
Thank you.
In my
So-
notes, I found a lot of
Right
people.
up there.
A lot of people think
Yeah.
it is their best song.
So I've got that this is She by Green Day off the Dookie album. Eighth track off of that great record. Billy Joe wrote the song based off an ex-girlfriend's feminist poem. He recorded the song and then she broke up with him. So at least she gave him the inspiration before she took off. I appreciate that. This is one of the few Green Day singles to not have a music video. They didn't record one for that. She has frequently been listed as one of Green Day's best songs, with Rolling Stone stating it's their 7th greatest single of all time. Billy Joel has stated this is his favorite song, and he makes sure it's included in every Green Day show. He told Rolling Stone in 2014, "I will play She for the rest of my life." And so, and for me, I was in Japan in 1995. I saw Green Day in the Tokyo Dome, and
Wow.
they played a bunch. They played all their big hits. They were playing everything. And when they kicked this off, the Japanese went berserk. So they must have really liked the song too, because the energy was a lot different for this than even Longview or Basket Case or any of those. Like they started playing
Really?
She in it, they went bananas. Like it was the whole energy in it like jumped up a little bit. So
I remember this would have come out spring of my junior year in high school, and I can remember we took a road trip down to the coast. A bunch of kids and I, and we would listen to this all the way down to the coast, down to Seaside, Oregon, and back. And so that you talk about being transported to a time and a place. I can. We were in Jennifer Thompson's white Escort cruising down 101 to Seaside, and
so you were on
listening
a
to-
date.
No,
Look at you.
Well,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
That's
There's
good.
a couple of girls.
Oh, there was a couple of
Yeah,
girls.
yeah, yeah.
My goodness. So
Who owned escorts? Brad, didn't you own like about three
I
escorts?
had 3
in
of
a row?
them.
Oh, it was a nice one too. It was
My first 3
souped up
cars.
one. Yeah,
that's good.
my wife had a couple.
I had a Toyota Tercel, an '84.
My third one had a
Tercel.
racing stripe on it.
Ooh,
That made it fancy.
A racing stripe,
on an
a
Escort.
racing stripe on an escort.
Yeah, that's good.
My
But,
word, is that useless?
Speaking of Green Day, I'm going to see them in concert in like 3 weeks. They're playing, and Smashing Pumpkins is opening too.
Oh,
And
nice.
They're playing right now the summer series. They're playing all the album of Dookie and all the album of American Idiot because it's the
My
20th
goodness.
and the 30th
Yeah.
anniversary.
Did we not?
So
We didn't see
we're going
that.
to hear
We missed
lots of great ones.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that'll
feel
be
like
good.
I feel like we should have found that concert if they came this way. But
know.
we missed that one.
Maybe
so
they're
have fun.
Maybe they're on their way.
Well, I see your Green Day and Smashing Pumpkins as good as that is. And last weekend, Rob and I
Ooh.
saw Hootie and the Blowfish and
Collective
Soul. So there you
Ooh,
go.
Collective Soul. I love that.
And actually,
was really good.
they actually did a really good.
was
They
good.
they put on a really good show.
I told Rob
Very-
the most 90s thing I've ever seen happen. So
Oh, yes.
Collective Soul's playing. They do a cover of AC/DC's Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, and they bring Edwin McCain out to sing the chorus part of the song. And
Yeah.
you just look up on stage, and I was like, what? This is just like a 90s like nostalgia craziness. So
Well, and then Hootie did Interstate Love
That's about
Song.
as weird as I saw Billy Joel, and he brought out Axl Rose to sing "Highway to Hell."
my goodness.
That was like,
Oh, you're
what's
gonna
going on here? It was
and-
awesome.
and Brad, you're gonna like this. Hootie did a "Losing My Religion" cover.
Oh, they did?
So, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow!
They paid homage to because their
I know you
REM
don't. I
is
know
their
you don't
favorite
like
band.
that song, but I like that song, and I was appreciative that
I
they did
do
the
like
cover.
that song.
So, all right. Well, that's going to take us to your guys' 1996 choice. This is a really good one too. Are you stumped, Rob?
No, I know this
he,
one.
He looks stumped for a second there.
No, I was looking at their reaction.
They picked it. They're going to have a good
I
reaction.
know.
It's just such a cool song.
Oh yeah, she has a great voice. Very unique.
Well, that whole garbage project I thought was really good. I thought
It's a project.
Well, I mean, it kind of you had was it Butch Vig and kind of
Oh,
put
yeah.
it together, and Shirley Manson, and
I really like the distortion when you come into the. I've always been a big fan of distortion in songs, so This time, I guess we'll let Brad take this one away. Are you in this
I
time?
do have this
Okay,
one, yep.
let's go.
Yep. So the backup here was Pepper by the Butthole Surfers. Speaking
Ah.
of such a
Yeah.
unique song, we just love that one.
Yeah,
But-
very good.
but
Awesome
this was
band.
such a big song.
Awful
So-
band name though.
Awful band name. So it's really good.
I was a huge fan of Garbage and Shirley Manson in the 90s. And a really specific memory of this song, too. So the Atlanta Olympics were going on, and they played this. I remember watching, like, they were showing the U.S. gymnastics team that they were going to, like, sweep everything, and they were playing this song to it. And it sounded so cool, but then you think, but does that really, the lyrics really fit with these girls that they're going to go out there and win this thing? So I thought it was weird, but it's just such a cool song. The video is too. The video is inspired by the movie Seven. If you watch the video, you can see the comparison there. I think I'm Paranoid came out in '98, and that's on the list later, which we could have picked, but we picked this one instead. So you mentioned Shirley Manson. She's one of the best front women of the '90s. Butch Vig on drums, the guy who produced Nevermind. It was nominated for Grammys, MTV Awards. And Vox Magazine's Craig McLean called it malignant, dirty, devious, sneering pop. I thought that was a good description, too.
It is.
Number 24 on Billboard Hot 100 and number 2 on the alternative airplay.
It's awesome.
I love
Cool
it.
band.
Yeah, I love anytime I hear that song come on, it goes up. Goes up loud. That's a great song. So actually that whole album's really good. I had that
Yeah.
album.
Nope.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one's great, too.
Yeah. My kids know that song now from Captain Marvel because they play it in the Captain Marvel movie. So
Oh, did they? Yeah. They played a lot of good 90s songs.
yeah, because they're back in the 90s. On
Oh
that,
yeah, that's
so
right.
That's where my kids first heard it. I
Yeah.
was like, it's older than that. So
Well, that's what my son first heard the Nirvana song in the Batman movie,
know.
and he's like, "Oh, I really like this
Oh, yeah.
song." And I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Something in the way.
is this a new
Yes,
band?
yes, that's what it was." And then he was playing it all over. He's like, "Yeah, it's in the Batman movie." I was like, "Oh, dude,
Yeah.
there's so many other."
So many.
Anyway, he knows now.
Yeah,
We're better now.
He's in.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So great pick. Yeah, you guys are still killing it. That takes us to R96, little famous band. Oh, GIF. You not know this one?
No,
Oh,
not ringing a bell for me here.
I would
Oh,
think.
it's Soundgarden.
Oh, it is Soundgarden.
Is it? I'm trying to blank on this name.
Oh, yeah.
Dirty? No.
oh.
Ooh, I
It's
really
a
like
great
that.
song. I just can't think of the title.
I like that feedback outro right there. So I'll let you go on this one, Rob.
All right, so this is Pretty Noose by
Pretty
Sound.
Noose.
Yeah, Pretty Noose. Written by Chris Cornell. It was released in April of '96. It was the first single from the band's fifth studio album, Down on the Upside, which was kind of a I think it's an underrated album.
It is.
But it didn't get a lot of good press.
It
So-
followed Super Unknown, which was going to be
Yeah,
impossible.
you
so
can't follow that.
yeah, anything they put out, people weren't going to love as much.
It was number 2 on the U.S. Billboard Modern Rock charts. It was number 1 on the U.K. Rock and Metal Singles charts. So the Finns liked it.
The Finns.
Yes. It
We do
peaked
like
at
the
number
Finns.
10 in Finland. According to Cornell, Pretty Noose is about an attractively packaged bad idea, something that seems great at first and then comes back to bite you. The director of the song's music video interpreted the song as your average bad girlfriend experience, an interpretation which Cornell agreed with.
Yes.
Yeah, Pretty Noose.
I got that album at Tower Records in Tokyo. I was in Shibuya district, and I remember they had a 4-story Tower Records, and we took the train all the way down there, and I bought it down there. So because it's sold out on base, so I couldn't buy it on base, so I had to go venture out into the world. So
We had a place by our house. It was called Music Warehouse, and it was used.
Yes.
And this was in the used bin
Oh.
right after it came out, and I was like, "What?
What? Somebody turned
Why,
it in
why
already.
did somebody turn it
Yeah.
in already?" So I
They didn't love it.
Wow.
picked it up used.
Yeah, that was like
We would drive an hour to Sioux
No,
Falls,
good.
South Dakota, to the
Ooh.
record store called Ernie November. That's where we found all our cool stuff, and we could trade them in and buy the used ones. And
Yeah.
that was always a fun trip.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, this album is really good, but I think it fell prey to the same problem. It came after Super Unknown, so everybody had this idea of it, and then it wasn't quite that. Just like when Green Day's album After Dookie
Utero.
came out no, I was going to say after Dookie, that next album, I think is great, but a lot of people didn't love it as much because it wasn't Dookie. So
Nimrod?
yeah. So people didn't. No, not Nimrod.
Was it not
Is it?
Nimrod?
No, it's the one before that.
Is it Insomniac?
Insomniac. There it is.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
Those are the two.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think it suffered from the same thing. But really good album. So
I had a great grandfather named Nimrod.
nice.
There you go.
There you go. Family name. You should pass it.
Little
down.
random piece of advice.
I see the resemblance.
Yeah.
No, we see it. You look like a Nimrod.
That's the best comeback I've ever heard. I'm stealing
I
that.
see the resemblance.
That's really good. Well
All
done. Well played. I'm glad we're friends
yes.
here.
What we're going into your we're going into your 1997 song, and what I'm noticing, and you should notice, the sounds are starting to change a little bit from alternative beginning to now where we're getting to the late 90s. But this song, it kind of harbors back a little bit, but I just think it's probably your most fun song that you had on your list this week.
I got my head shaved by a jumbo jet.
I don't know what that word is.
I don't know what they're saying.
It's very English.
I looked it up. I forget, and then I forgot. I looked it up because I never can remember.
Yep. So great song.
Well,
So good.
Song 2 by Blur. We had a ton of great choices here again, but this is just such a banger that everybody knows this song instantly. It was interesting to see on the same list an Oasis song as well from their third album because they had their big rivalry in the UK.
Yes.
And really Blur didn't, other than this song, like they're a one-hit wonder pretty much in the US. And at the time, I loved Oasis back then. I hate Oasis now. Somebody will probably be upset.
What are we talking about?
I can't even talk about how much I hate them.
Yes.
Well, let's not do
So
that.
at the time, I loved them, but
I still like it.
two reasons. One, I feel like their music doesn't sound as good anymore, but they that little puke Gallagher ripped on Michael Hutchence publicly right before he died, and I will never forgive him for that.
All right.
So lame. They're such little bitches.
He got really fired up on
digress.
Oasis today.
Blur, on the other hand.
That's
Got really upset.
Yeah.
So
It has to do with my love of NXS, though. It's just not
gotcha.
cool.
yeah.
there's a
This song was nominated for multiple MTV Video Awards and Brit Awards in 2011. NME placed it at number 79 on its list of 150 best tracks of the past 15 years. This is kind of like Radiohead, where Creep didn't really fit a lot of the other stuff. They wrote this song as a joke on the record company. They weren't expecting much. It's basically a parody of grunge, but it's the second song on the album. It's 2 verses. It's 2 minutes. It's 2 seconds. And it was a huge hit, number 6 on the alternative airplay. And this is one that's going to live on forever. Everybody.
It's
will
fantastic.
remember this.
If you haven't seen it on Netflix, they have a documentary series. It's called Pop something. It's about pop music. There's a whole episode in there about the the Blur Oasis
I have seen
rivalry. So it's pretty good. So
Yep. I think it's something called Pop.
Yeah.
Pop is in the title. I know
because
that.
there's a Boys to Men one in there and some ABBA and some other stuff. So
Yeah,
it's
that's the
really good.
first one.
So, but great song.
Sorry if I offended anybody with my Oasis hate. But
You only
I just
offended me.
couldn't
Rob
get it out.
also has some equal.
I can't stand him.
He
I don't
doesn't
know
like
why.
him either for no apparent reason.
See, I told you I'm a
So,
Robster through and
I
through.
know it's. So you lose 1 point today for that. That's all. So all right. You didn't know I was keeping score, but that's 1 point deduction. So, all right.
We'll get it back.
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll get to that.
Well, that takes us to our song in '97. This is an industrial like dance style song.
Yes, Prodigy.
Like this part.
This is a great choice.
Oh yes,
Breathe.
breathe. Yes, very good.
Nice.
Nice. You got that one for sure.
Wow.
So as you said, "Breathe" by Prodigy.
Did I get my
So
point back?
what's that?
Yeah, he gets his point back.
I get my point back?
I'll give you a half. Stop begging.
Yeah,
Anyway,
easier to lose them than gain them.
yeah, that's right. So, "Breathe" by Prodigy. Prodigy was like a missile for all of 97, and then, they kind of floated away after that, but they had a heck of a 1997, early 98. They were like a thing for a second there. So electronic industrial let's see, I used to play this song. Like, the reason I know this song is we would go out in Japan and we would go down to this, it was called the Roppongi District, all dance clubs, and they do these huge dance clubs, and Japanese love dance industrial music. And every time I'd go into this one club, it's called the Gas Panic, they would be blaring Prodigy so loud, and the Japanese would they're just sweating on the dance floor. There's like 1,000 of them. They're just ear to ear dancing, slamming into each other. It was crazy. Like, it was the craziest scene I've ever noticed in my life. But so I will always remember this song. This feels like 97. And it's just an awesome song. That whole record's pretty good. So, but I'll let Rob, you got any other info?
I just have, this is a Prodigy. It's Breathe. Astute listeners will hear a drum break from the song Johnny the Fox Meets Jimmy the Weed by Thin Lizzy. I did not know that. Anyway, I thought that was a weird thing.
Did you pick that out?
The whiplashing sword.
Very astute.
Very astute. The whiplashing sword sound effect is from a song called The Mystery of Cheeseboxin' by Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Nice.
Melody Maker ranked Breathe number 29 in their list of the best singles of 96. Q Magazine featured it in their 1001 best songs ever in 2003. And sadly, the lead singer, Keith Flint, died in 2018.
That is too bad.
he died.
He had an amazing hairdo and that huge bull ring in his nose.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Fiastata.
Fiastata.
Yeah,
That's a good
that's
one,
right.
too.
Yeah,
Twisted
Yeah.
Fiastata.
and
And
that's
then-
from the
Twisted
Firestarter song. That was in the first Charlie's Angels movie. think.
Yes.
Ah.
Actually, I thought it was Smack My Bitch Up, but it's one of those two.
Oh, that was, yeah.
Was it?
I think I have to double check on that.
There's
So,
I think that was it during like a fight scene.
I think so.
remember.
Yeah. So,
That'd be the one.
yeah.
Mm.
So, all right. Well, we're cruising towards the end of the 90s here. That takes us to 1998, and we're getting old at this point. So, another really good song.
Yeah.
I pitch play, I promise. There it is. This is a one-hit wonder,
Yep.
Yes, it is.
but
One
a
of the
really
best
good one.
ever.
If you're gonna have one, this is the one.
So much fun.
Yeah, this is one of the songs that paid for your house.
Oh yeah, just pays for
Many
everything.
houses.
Yeah. It reminds me of watching like American Pie. That's what it reminds me of.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I hear late 90s music like this. I'm like, oh, American Pie. But no one ever does.
I know our listeners have probably heard this story. These guys have not. But we went to a concert, my wife and I, a blues artist. His name was Joe Bonamassa, and he's telling this story about how he was a young songwriter. He was in his early 20s, and he was working with this songwriter who was a kind of a veteran songwriter. And the guy said, "Hey," he came in for a session one day, and the guy said, "Hey, we're done. I'm done. My ship's come in." And he said, "What?" And he goes, I wrote a song, and it's taken off." And ended up the song that he had written was the
My
Titanic,
Heart.
My Heart Will Go On.
Yep.
And so Joe Bonamassa is telling this story, and he goes, "I just watched a guy in that moment become fuck you rich."
Yep.
And I think about some of these songs where this is one of those, right? This is a song where this made this guy, anything he does from here on out, the residuals from this song, he's going to be fine. Yeah.
So, which one of you are telling us about this song? Oh, Kip's back in. Tapped him back
Hey!
in. Hey.
Yep. So it was hard for us at Pop Culture Yearbook not to go with Semisonic's Closing Time. It was used amongst our group of friends as the last song at all of our wedding dances.
Every one of
So
us.
that was
So how would
kind
you
of
not
the
pick?
Ah.
Why would you not pick that song?
end of the night, big circle in the middle of the dance floor.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
this one of the fighting songs where you
you
guys
know-
started fighting?
No.
Oh.
But that being said, Harvey Danger's Flagpole Sitta cannot be denied. It's the debut single from the album Where Have All the Merrymakers Gone? It reached number 3 on the alternative airplay chart. It was ranked number 25 song of the 90s and the number 1 song of 98 by Rolling Stone magazine. The awesome guitar riff to start out, the sing-along fun lyrics, makes it my favorite banger of the year. And like you'd said earlier, I can't hear the song and not see the accompanied montage from 1990s American Pie. It will forever be an anthem for a simpler time in my life. It's just
And so it's closing
so
time.
much fun.
Oh yeah, closing time
Well,
is
that's
great.
true too.
So
We didn't pick closing time just because we thought it was even more well known. Like, I mean,
okay.
if you don't know that song, it's great. You know, it's obviously very important to all of us. But like this one, I felt like needed to be just kind of put back out there into the consciousness. We're going to make it big again with totally 80s and 90s recall. Here,
Perfect.
so.
And Gift said back to a simpler time when you could just film a girl without her knowledge on the internet with no clothes on, and
Exactly.
and get in
Simple.
no trouble, no consequences whatsoever.
Yeah. And have Blink 182 enjoy it just as much as everybody else.
Who apparently went to their high school with them, so because he said that guy's in my trig class or whatever he said. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, absolutely great song. Love it so much. So, our choice from 1998. This was a Rob choice. I have heard it.
He gave me this.
I
one.
gave this one to him. I've heard it, but it's a good song. Ooh.
Ooh.
Did you get him again?
They got nothing. I kind of wondered if this would be the.
I got nothing.
It's got nothing.
They got nothing.
I gotcha. I will be honest. I hadn't heard this in 30 years.
Yeah.
But I remembered it when I heard it.
Yeah.
So
this is a song called "Over Your Shoulder" by a band called Seven Mary 3.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and I'm a
So
big Seven Mary 3 fan.
Cumbersome
I like that. Yeah, Cumberson is the one that you would know. Yep. They're considered
This
a
does
post.
not sound like that.
No,
No,
it
much
doesn't. Yeah,
different.
and that's the thing. A lot of their stuff did not sound like Cumbersome. Really great songwriting. I really like their band. Unfortunately, they don't make music right now, but they're still got a very active social media presence. And so like they're starting to repress some of their music on vinyl and re-releasing some of their music, which is kind of cool. This was the only single to chart from this album. It was called Orange Avenue. The album was. It was number 7 on the Hot Mainstream Rock Tracks, number 16 on the Hot Modern Rock Tracks. The album is named after a street running through downtown Orlando, Florida. It's the band's hometown. The Sun Sentinel, which is the main daily newspaper of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Broward County, Florida, wrote that, quote, by forgetting trends and focusing on their own experience, Seven Mary 3 has made Orange Avenue a dark horse contender for the year's best rock album.
Mm-hmm. How'd that go? Was it nominated for that or anything?
I don't think it was nominated for anything.
So they didn't take into account the Fort Lauderdale Sentinel on that one. Okay. Is that what you're telling me?
But okay,
Not big enough?
but David and I were at the Hootie and the Blowfish concert, like we mentioned earlier. And before the concert, they had before the people came on, they had music playing in the stadium, and every song came on. Like, oh, good song, good song. But one of the things Dave pointed out is a lot of the bands were kind of this, I don't know, like milquetoast,
Very-
middle of the road, like Dishwalla.
Very accessible.
It was, and I found this quote. It said, the AV Club wrote that though Seven Mary 3 still won't be mistaken for a creative dynamo, its diversity generally means there's a wider variety of forgettable rock songs from which to choose on Orange Avenue. It's certainly not so difficult to endure, sort of like the work of an accomplished but underwhelming bar band.
Yes.
And I thought that idea of being an underwhelming band, you're not huge, you're not, you know.
And what I said about the milquetoast thing is amazing songs, like great songs I love from the 90s. But if anybody was listening to a song and got Dishwalla, Tonic, Cracker, or some of those bands mixed up, I'd be like, that's okay, I understand. Because, they kind of all played in that same stadium. Oh, yeah, they're good. But you can hear, like, it's a perfect, all those particularly towards the late 90s, I thought, alternative got a little more like accessible. So you've got your Blues Travelers, you've got your Dishwallas, you've got
mainstream.
Yeah,
really.
Third Eye Blinds. You get all these types of bands, and so it's very radio, but it's still got some rock in it, so you can kind of hear it. But it's definitely not Dookie and In Utero and albums like that. It's just much different.
Correct.
So that takes us to the end of the 90s. Your choice for 1999. Absolutely great choice, and probably one of the most memorable songs of that year, I would say. One of the most memorable songs of the 90s, maybe.
It's probably our second easiest pick of the list.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like 1999.
Yes.
Again, you
And I'm
could,
pretty sure in another American Pie movie.
yeah, you could just dump this into an American Pie. Same thing.
I got this CD right after I moved up to
Yeah.
Ellensburg.
Ellensburg.
I remember listening to it on my drive up to Ellensburg.
That's nice. I like
Yeah.
that. Very
Yeah.
good song.
Love it.
Yeah.
I got this last one.
Oh, nice.
So there are a lot of good songs on this list here again, but when we listened to the opening guitar riff of this song, it was just done. It was an obvious choice. Like Flagpole Sitta, it's another great song that stands above all the rest for how good it is, but how it brings you back, like you get to that time. Like it's 1999. It's a total sing along. I mean, you can just sit around and just everybody's gonna sing along. It's got a great video, like a Foo Fighters type video. They made so many great fun videos. This one's in a bowling alley. They're all dressed up. I got when you hear that chorus, like I said, everybody's gonna sing along. Everybody knows it, no matter who they are. It's another song you can relate to now, though, in the college years about, making mistakes and coming home. And, it's so kind of like Creep in high school. This is like the college song. American Songwriter reported that this song ranked among the most broadcasted karaoke and covered songs in music history.
Yeah.
It's still heavily played
Oh, yeah.
today. It's only reached number 51 on the Hot 100, but was number 1 and huge on the alternative chart. And Lit's another band kind of like Harvey Danger, where this is really all I know. I know they have other stuff, and I know they put out a lot more, and I'm sure fans of the band would hate to have them called one-hit wonders, much like when people call Semisonic a one-hit wonder, I cringe because they're so much better than that. But it is really about the only song I know by them, and it's by far their biggest hit.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's great. When
And
you,
it bought their house.
Yeah.
lots of houses.
Many houses.
When you say you related to it as like a college song, you woke up in the yard a lot? Yeah.
Well, I didn't.
The front
You were
yard.
supposed to.
Yeah.
That's the way it was supposed to be in
That's the way it
college.
was supposed to be. Yeah. So, awesome. Really good song. Yeah. That's 1999, oozing all over the place. So, we also have a pretty 1999 sounding song. Ours is some of that new metal trash that showed up on the scene in 1999.
Ooh, that's it. Nothing. You'll know the chorus.
Yeah.
No?
See, all these bands run together.
Yeah,
I got
see?
two friends that would know this. I got two friends that would know this immediately. I don't know if this is Godsmack.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not Godsmack.
It's
I
that
can
same
tell you
idea,
that.
though, right? They kind of blend together.
Oh yeah. This is When Worlds Collide by Power Man 5000. So this would be
the old
their
Power Man.
this would be their thing, their one big hit. I'm sure, like you just said about Semisonic, there's a Power Man 5000 person out there like, no. There's like 12 great songs. But
Well, they've
for me,
released
this
10
is-
albums.
I know it's
So they're very active, and they're still active.
Right.
yeah. Well, I'll let you do this one. Rob. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. So it's When Worlds Collide, Power Man 5000, also known as PM 5K.
Ooh, very good.
For the diehard fans.
Yeah.
They've released 10 albums. Their 1999 album, Tonight the Stars Revolt, reached number 29 on the Billboard 200 and spawned the singles When Worlds Collide, this one, and Nobody's Real. And one of the band's most well-known songs. It's featured in the 2000 film Lil Nicky.
Oh, terrible.
Starring
movie.
Adam Sandler.
That's where I missed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Nominated by the Boston Music Awards in 2000 for Single of the Year.
Ooh,
Yeah,
did it
the-
win?
The big Boston Music Awards.
Did it win?
That's what everybody's shooting for.
I understand that.
I don't know if it won.
Oh, okay.
Lead singer and younger brother of musician and filmmaker Rob Zombie, and the only consistent member of the lineup since the band's formation, Spider One. That's his name, Spider
Oh,
One.
yeah. 'Cause Spider 2, he
Yeah, he couldn't do it.
Yeah. Whatever. You don't know what the Spider 2
Spider
has
2.
stated that the song is about social classes. Astute listeners will notice the sample "You Are a Robot" being from the 1962 film "The Creation of the Humanoids."
Yeah, lots of people got that one. So,
Yeah.
Anyway,
People out there going, "I knew it! I knew it!"
it does sound a little Rob Zombie-ish. I'll give it that.
It does.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what it
definitely
sounds like.
Definitely has some Rob Zombie
Yeah.
adjacent noise to it.
No.
So, well, that wraps up our lists, our 1990s alternative hits list. I think really good lists all the way up and down. Actually, really good songs. This is a playlist. I've already listened to it because I had all of it. But it's a really good playlist. You can just put it on. So, but I did have one question for you. When you looked and you were going through, and I know you all agreed because you're all best friends, so it's great. Was there one song like, I can't believe we didn't get that on there. I really wanted that song to be on one of the years or something like that.
Well, I'd say, Semisonic was the big one. We actually, we were this close to picking It's a Shame About Ray instead of Delamitri, which maybe would have liked that one better. But no, I don't think we fought on anything.
There were just so many in the latter years, at least for me. Well, basically 94 on there, because of me personally coming into popular music more. And there were just so many great ones. I mean, you can look down the list here and just go, oh my God, how do we not go with that? But I'm completely happy with every selection that we made. And, I'm able to sleep at night. Let's just put it
Well, that's good. I was
as long
worried.
As long as we didn't pick Oasis.
There we go.
What did you call them? They were anyway.
Anyway, we don't need. There needs to be no more Oasis slander on this episode. We've had enough. So
all fighting all the time.
Yeah, I told Rob next year is the 30th anniversary of What's the Story Morning Glory. And we're going to cover that album. He just he gets to get excited for it now.
Yay.
So.
Yay.
Hey, I'll listen to it. I listened to that album 100 times back
there you
then,
go.
So.
See? Maybe you'll start to come back the other way again. You'll be like, you know what? I gave him a bad rap for a long time. They're out
of got a lot of work ahead of you for that.
I'll use something that you're familiar with. They'll be out of detention. Maybe we can get them out of detention, right? So.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Maybe.
So, all right. Well, fans, if you'd like to support the show, take a second, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and then share Totally 80s and 90s Recall with a friend so we can spread the fun and nostalgia far and wide. Also, you can reach out to the show on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Subscribe to our Facebook page to interact and get updates about future shows, or message us on Instagram, TikTok, or any of our social media sites. We also have a YouTube channel, so you can check out Rob and I live, and all of these links will be included for you in the show notes.
Descendants of the Decade assemble. Are you secretly a member of the DeLorean fan club? Is your soul inextricably linked to the flux capacitors? Do you possess an uncanny ability to attract plutonium? If this is a description of your plight, our potion is the path to wellness, and the Totally 80s and 90s Recall podcast is the penicillin for your soul, Dave.
Very good.
And Dave and I are your doctors. It's time to reboot your mood, refresh with real cheer, because your 80s and 90s passport is about to be stamped. Visit Totally 80s and 90s Recall at podbean.com and prepare to dine at the nostalgia buffet of your dreams. Dave and I will unleash a time-traveling tsunami of 80s and 90s awesomeness. Dave and I will have you saying grody to the max quicker than you can nuke the Swanson Salisbury Steak Hungry Man meal. Now, if that last statement has you hungrier than the south end of a northbound mule, send us an email at 80s90srecall@gmail.com. Consider Dave and I your remembrance farmers. Step into our garden as we tend your seedlings of fond memories and echoes of the past.
Too much farming today. All right, finally, you can drive the show's visibility by giving us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple or Spotify. If you really love the show, let us know. It'll help us grow, become the popular people that we should always be. So, all right, Brad and Giff, why don't you go ahead one last time? You can give a plug and anything upcoming you'd like to share for people to listen in for.
Yeah, so we're going to do 2016, like we said, but we're actually doing all the sixes the rest of the year. So if you want to go back in time, we're going to do 1986 and 1996 as well. In what months will those be? October and November.
October, yep.
So we're going to hit all the decades. And then in December, we got a bunch of Christmas stuff planned too. So we're going to do a lot of good stuff. If you're looking for 2016, we did make our picks. I'm doing the movie Pop Star, speaking of music, with Andy Samberg, which is one of the funniest movies ever.
Yes, hilarious.
Great. And Gifford, what did you pick? Oh, Stranger Things.
I went with Stranger Things. And then, since we don't have Pete this month, we are going to do something similar to that we did last month. Brad and I both chose 2 topics, and we're going to throw those out at the appropriate time on the social medias and let our extensive fan base vote on those.
Well, there's 14 million of them, so
Yeah, decide on what
It's
we're
funny.
gonna
We
do.
only get like 10 to 20 votes.
Right.
So it's-
Shh, don't say that. Don't say that. So let the fans decide what we're going to do for that last month based on those 4 things. So
Nice.
we're looking forward to putting that out. And again, find us wherever you can find all your greatest podcasts. So.
yeah. Well,
There you go.
86, awesome year for movies. Howard the Duck came out in 1986, so that should be right on your radar.
Hey, let me mark that
the,
one
the
down.
greatest movie in cinema came out in '86, Three Amigos, but we won't do that one because we've already done
That's
it.
right.
So
We've
you
already
can go
covered
back and find that one in the archives.
Mhm.
Well, awesome. We want to thank you guys again for being here.
Yeah, that was
it's
fun.
so much fun hanging out with you guys, chopping
Thank
it
you
up.
guys.
Like I said, we have some pretty similar interests in music, so it's fun to go over all that together. And so you're welcome back anytime, and thanks for showing up today.
Thank you,
And
gentlemen.
well, let's just throw out too that you guys, if people weren't, you were on our show just like a month
We
ago,
were.
so people can go back and listen to you there too.
Oh, awesome.
So they can get as much of us as they need. Which, if you've got 14
fun
million, 14 million people,
We'll take
there's
that.
a lot to spread around. So,
It's good because we used to have one. So.
oh, that's
Yes,
good.
exactly.
Hey,
At the
one's,
beginning of this episode, I think we had 1, and now we're up to 14 million.
We're all
There you go.
eventually.
one is better than zero, so you can always look
That's
at it that
right.
way. So, yeah. So, hey, Rob, you got any closing thoughts for us?
I
today?
don't have any closing thoughts.
No,
I,
nothing.
I thought
Nothing prepared.
that was nothing prepared. I didn't.
Yeah, can't follow all that
I
up.
can't follow that.
No more farming reports.
No
Okay.
more farming reports.
Well,
No.
from underground
Price of
college, from underground college radio, 120 minutes and local stations around the country, alternative music rose to prominence in the 90s, and we truly hope you've enjoyed our look back today at some of those great songs of a great decade. If you like today's musical choices, we provided links to Spotify, Apple, and Amazon playlists in the show notes, so you can enjoy all of these great songs in full. Finally, we'd like to thank all of our listeners, whether first-timers or subscribers, for hanging out with Rob and I, and our special guests from Pop Culture Yearbook, Brad and Giff. Hopefully, we were able to give you an hour or so of some laughs and great memories. And don't forget to tune in for all new episodes of Totally 80s and 90s Recall every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. What is our homework for next
Ooh,
time?
homework for next time. We're doing a movie, 1985's Weird Science.
I
Ooh,
like that movie.
we love that movie. How did you two weigh in on Weird Science?
Well, it's one that. Go ahead, Giff.
Well, I actually rewatched it not that long ago, and unfortunately, it's kind of a negative review. It doesn't hold up as well.
I agree with that.
But Bill Paxton, you gotta give a shout out. He's absolutely wonderful. God rest his soul, and so that's a highlight for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
Well, and this will be one like Spaceballs you just did, where Rob wasn't a huge fan, but I enjoyed the episode from beginning to end because every line you got, it was great to listen to. That's the way I'll feel about Weird Science, even though
Okay.
it wasn't one of my favorite
Yeah.
movies.
Okay.
You guys will kill it. So.
Well, I'm on the other side of the fence of all three of you because I love Weird Science. So, well, I literally just watched it 2 nights ago and I still like it a lot.
Well, I'm going to
so.
reserve my comments
Yeah,
because
I'm
I
sure
think
you will.
No, because I think you're
Yeah.
wrong on this. You think I'm not going to like it.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I admit
see.
I haven't seen it in probably 30 to 35 years.
Look,
so maybe
I
I like
will-
it better than I remember.
I will give Gift this. There are some aged things,
Yes.
but I still take it for the value and the time it was made, and I just think it was funny for that. So
Yeah.
that's how
And
I
that's
try to.
fair.
That's how I try to look at it. I try to not look at it at 2024. I try to pretend it's still 85. So.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
some of
that's
it
a
works.
good way to go.
So, all right. Well, Rob, now that we have our homework, do you have any fancy goodbyes?
I don't have any fantasy goodbyes.
All right, then I think we're done.
Peace out, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.